Hello, everyone, and welcome once again to Brandao Collection. Today, we are here and excited for episode 3 of the Brandao Collection podcast. I'm really enjoying this format, this longer form to be able to be a little more open and honest about these different topics and discuss any exciting things that are going on in the community, whether it be in autograph collecting or any of those other types of collecting communities, and also talk a little bit about certain thoughts I have on topics about, for example, last week we talked about integrity, having integrity and being a good person and just spreading that kind of positivity around within your collecting, no matter what type of setting you may be in, and certain things like that. Now, today, there hasn't been, as of this recording, there hasn't been any really super big, major news going on in the autograph community or in those other communities where it comes to any big announcements or signings or things coming up. But we do have New York Comic Con going on. As of this recording, is actually tomorrow, is October 12th, 2023, is the first day of New York Comic Con. We will be attending Comic Con this year. I'm actually only going to be going one day, and I'm only going to be going on the Saturday of the event, just so that I can keep my streak going on. And we'll actually talk about that as part of today's topics, or at least one of today's topics, is talk about conventions and the world of going to a convention. And I'm going to talk a little bit about my personal history with conventions and New York Comic Con in particular, but also just kind of going to them throughout my life. We'll touch on some things that I always like to talk about for people who may have never gone to a Comic Con or just a culture convention before. Anybody who's maybe has gone to a convention, even if you've only gone to one before, maybe some things you haven't noticed before, and stuff like that. And then another topic I actually want to talk about is fake autographs. So we're now here on episode 3 of this podcast. And of course, this topic was going to come up eventually, especially for those of you who listen or watch our videos that had just jumped into the hobby. If this is the beginning of your journey in collecting autographs, then of course this is going to be a major topic for you to kind of go into and check. Now, for those of you who are listening in on this podcast, I got to let you know, once we get to the fake autograph part of our topic, it is going to be a very visual heavy discussion. So if once we get to that part, if you want to follow along with the visuals that we're going to be sharing as part of our conversation, you can jump on over to our YouTube channel to watch the video version of this podcast. Of course, those of you who are watching it right now, thank you so much for watching and being here on our channel. And we're going to jump right into things. So first off, like I said, we'll talk about kind of conventions, some of my thoughts, and some of my things about when it comes to conventions, a little bit about our excitement for New York Comic Con, and then we'll jump back into those fake autographs as our final topic. So let's jump right into the convention scene. So as I mentioned, New York Comic Con is happening this weekend as we're recording it. I'm very excited, as I always am every year that New York Comic Con comes around. It's kind of become a family tradition at this point. Now, I personally have been going to New York Comic Con since 2007, which is actually the second year that they hosted the event. So the first event ever was in 2006. The event actually used to be in February. So it used to be kind of in the dead of winter here in New York, New Jersey, when it first started for the first couple years of the event. And then in 2007, I actually got tickets to get into the event by being friends with a fellow filmmaker at the time. He was working with another company. He was working with their booth at the event. So he was able to get some additional tickets. He was nice enough to offer one of those tickets to me. And I was able to go into that New York Comic Con in 2007 and just kind of wander around the Jacob Javits Center in New York City and take a look at the sights and sounds and everything that it had to offer. And it's so crazy to see where the event has come since 2007. I mean, like I said, it was the second year of the event. They had celebrities, they had the booths, they had different things, but it was so small and quaint compared to what type of event is run now, and especially what type of event is going to be this upcoming weekend now that things are kind of in full force back post COVID when it comes to your convention scene. So it's crazy to see those big differences. Back then, I remember some of the booths that were there, the Darkness, which is a video game for those of you who may have played video games around that time, 2006, 2007 era. You have the Darkness. I remember there was a booth for that. There was a booth giving away signed posters from the movie The Number 23 with Jim Carrey. There was a couple different celebrities there. I remember Gary Coleman was there. Hayden Panettiere from Heroes, because Heroes had just started. So she was there promoting that show. I also remember getting some of the people who played the superheroes on the Stanley reality TV show Who Wants to Be a Superhero. So that was another thing. That was a show I watched with my family on the Sci-Fi Channel. So it was exciting to kind of see all those people in person doing some autographs. No gigantic celebrities as it is nowadays, but it's just very quaint and very similar to, I would say, like a mom and pop convention that would happen today in 2023, or even your little bit smaller comic conventions that go on. Like, for example, there's one here in New Jersey called Garden State Comic Fest. That one is very focused, of course, on comic book collecting, but they do every now and then have a couple kind of, I would say at most B-list. They're usually C or D-list celebrities, but they are people that you would recognize from movies and television. And that's kind of where New York Comic Con started. And of course, the most famous Comic Con across the entire world is San Diego. San Diego is the one that whenever you say the words Comic Con, usually that's where most people, their brain automatically goes to, especially if there's somebody who's not part of going to those conventions, who just kind of are on the outside. And even people who are part of the community, usually San Diego is the first one they think of when you use those words together of Comic Con. But at this point, New York is actually significantly larger. It has a much larger attendance than San Diego's event. And that's a logistic standpoint is another thing, because San Diego's convention center cannot fit the amount of people that show up for the New York event. The New York Jacob Javits can fit significantly more people in it than the San Diego Convention Center. So from that standpoint, of course, they're going to get more people, but it's also, it seems like people travel from all over the world specifically to go to New York Comic Con. And I think it's also a big piece of it is that New York City connection, because for anybody who lives within the United States, or of course, anybody who lives outside of the United States, when you think of the US, when you think of America, New York City is at the top of the list of one of the things that automatically comes to your mind when you think America, and what are the most famous cities and what are the places you have to visit if you've never been here before. Or even let's say you live within America and you live in the Midwest, or even on the West Coast, and you've never traveled to the East. You know, okay, if I'm traveling to the East Coast, I have to go to New York City. So that's just one of those things. And I think the combination of having a hub of places to go to in New York City, and having that hub of the collecting community and all of these pop culture people, the pop culture, I should say, for the lack of a better word, where you have that combination of people who want to collect comic books. You have the autograph alley for people who want to collect autographs and meet these celebrities and get photo ops. You have the artist alley, where you have all of these artists and comic writers from all comic book history, from your vintage books of those of us who are those artists and writers who are still with us, all the way to the hottest writers and artists that are working in the industry right now that you can meet and get books signed by them, or just say hello and and talk about those books and that art and what it means to you, having those connections. And of course, the show floor being so packed with just anything you could possibly think of, any type of fandom that you have ever followed at any point in your life, there is going to be at least one item on that show floor that represents that fandom. You have Marvel, you have DC, you have let's say something random like Studio Ghibli, you have anime, you got One Piece, My Hero Academia, um, you have cosplay, you have all these people with these amazing cosplays every year. Every year those cosplays get more and more incredible. You can tell the passion and the blood, sweat, and tears that these people put into working towards this specific weekend every single October. Every October they know Comic-Con weekend, that's the weekend I need to have the best costume I have ever made and show that to this entire community. And all these people that are going to be there taking photos with their phones and professional photographers and all that stuff. It's really just the feeling that you get when you go to an event like this, that it's of course extremely overwhelming because you're bumping into everybody, there's no room to walk, you're slamming into people, you're on top of each other all the time, and you're really trying to take your time to get through and look at anything you could possibly look at, and it's just a brain overload. There's no way that even if you're there all 4 days, there's no way you're possibly going to see every single thing that happens. Even forget the panels. You have the panels where these celebrities who are promoting new events for them to come up. Now, this year is going to be very different because whereas of right now, the writer strike is being handled, and that's something that's kind of coming to an end now. The actor strike is still happening as of this weekend. So any of these actors that are part of the union, they're not going to be able to speak about any projects that they've previously worked on, and they're not going to be able to talk about any projects that they have upcoming in the future. So it's going to be interesting to see how these panels are structured for this weekend and any other cons that are happening during the actor strike. But otherwise, people who are running panels that are not even just specific to actors, let's say writers and directors and people who have other podcasts that have little small panels with their fans. You have all these different events going on. There's always something to do, always something to see, always new people to meet and become friends with. It's such a great open community. So it's something I always look forward to. And like I said, I've been going since 2007. I have not missed. Not the only one I've missed is the one that everybody missed, where they canceled. They canceled the event in 2020 due to COVID, and then the event came back in 2021. But that one, of course, doesn't count because nobody went to Comic-Con that year. They canceled it for everybody. But I've gone to every single one since 2007. And I make it a mission that for as long as they hold the event, I'm going to go at least one day to make sure and keep that streak up. And of course, like I mentioned, this has become a family affair where initially it just was myself going by myself that first year. And then every year after, my family buys tickets and we go together. So my wife goes with me. My brother's there who also collects comic books as well as me. My aunt and uncle kind of go along too. So it's a whole family thing. And we've brought friends and other family members over the years into it with us, and it's really just something that we do together and look forward to every year. And we always say, block off that weekend, figure out what dates Comic-Con is happening, because we can't have any other events. Somebody's getting married that weekend. Oh well, too bad. It's okay. They won't miss us that much. We're gonna go to Comic-Con that weekend because we have to make sure that Comic-Con's happening for us. We got to make sure we go there because that's a big deal to us as a family. So it's really great, and it's interesting to kind of see where things have gone and how the event has grown and gone from there. Now, I mentioned a little bit earlier, I wanted to talk a little bit about my history with conventions outside of New York Comic Con. I want to spend a little time on Comic-Con, of course, New York, I should say, because that event's happening this weekend and I'm going to be attending the event. But I want to talk about a little bit some other things. So convention-wise, I have been going to conventions since 2003. So 2002, 2003, somewhere around there. So we're at exactly 20 years. As of this year, I have been going to different types of conventions for about 20 years now. And it's crazy to think about that it's been that long since I've been going to conventions. And that was even way before things got as popular as they are now. It's crazy to once again think, just like I was talking about in New York, was that at the time when I was going with my family to these other smaller events before we started moving to kind of the bigger Comic Cons, is that nobody went to these events. It was very kind of niche, like super niche. It was very specific to one particular fandom. It wasn't very wide reaching. It was very specific to the types of actors and celebrities that were at these events that you met. And those events I started with were these like smaller horror sci-fi conventions. So specifically here in New Jersey, you have the Chiller Theater Convention, which has been happening for more than 30 years, since the early 90s. And then you also have the Monster Mania event, which happens in Cherry Hill, New Jersey, which has been going on for over 20 years. So since the late 90s, early 2000s. And those two events are the ones that we used to go to all the time. So those events are usually like 2 to 3 times a year. We would go to those as a family and go because when I was a kid, I was really into horror sci-fi, which I still am. And that kind of shows in a lot of the stuff I collect. But those events were where you met a lot of these kind of aging celebrities who were stars in these horror films from the 70s and 80s, the 90s. You had some people from, of course, the early 2000s, more recent movies at the time. And then you had even people who were still with us that were from older movies. You had people from back all the way to like the 40s and 50s and 60s. You have this wide range of different people. And these aren't ones that, of course, even today, they wouldn't be considered headliners or people that you would have major lines wrapped around the block for. But the people who went to these events, who attended these events, these people that they met were at the time, and even now, were a big deal to them. Like, for example, the one I always like to use is for those of you out there who are horror movie fans. If you're a fan of the original Friday the 13th, the first movie, the original from 1980, in that film, of course, you find out, spoiler alert, that the killer is not Jason. Jason doesn't come until part 2. But the killer in part 1 is his mother, is Pamela Voorhees. And that is played by the actress Betsy Palmer. So Betsy Palmer, she was very prolific on the comic, I say Comic-Con, but the horror con scene. It wasn't Comic-Con yet, but the horror con scene. So she would travel to whichever conventions, these small ones that are being held in hotels across the country, and attend and meet horror fans and sign autographs and all that. From there, we met her twice. And the first time we met her, I always remember this, that I went with, it was me, my brother, my aunt and uncle, the same ones that go to New York with us. And then my grandparents. My grandparents actually came with us on that trip. And we went over to Betsy Palmer, and I wanted to get her autograph. So I go up and I ask for her autograph. And at this time, I'm like a preteen teenager. So I'm 12, 13 years old at the time, almost 14, probably somewhere around there. And I go up, ask for her autograph. She's really, really nice to me. She asks which picture I want to choose. I choose something on the table. She's doing the whole voice, the killer mommy killer voice, for those who know. And then the thing that it's so crazy to think of is that there were so little people at these events at this time that you could just kind of go and hang out with these people. You could get to learn more about them as a person, other than just having that sign something and then leave type of interaction, which is what we have today. And you lose that human connection by having that. However, I say that, but the way things are set up today, you kind of have to do it that way. You kind of have to just do signature, thanks for coming, bye. You have to do that nowadays because these events are so significantly larger. There's so many more people that are going in. You have much bigger celebrities. So it kind of goes with the territory of where we're at right now in the industry. But at these time with these smaller events, with these smaller actors, these smaller celebrities, for that, you could take some time and just kind of hang out and talk to them about life, talk to them about how their day was, what they've done recently, just in their life. And I remember Betsy Palmer talking to my grandparents about their grandkids. About she was talking about her grandkids with my grandparents, and that's just a memory I have that's like a core convention memory that's so simple. Where nowadays, of course, everybody we talk about your Mark Hamills. We've talked about that previously. You have like a Comic-Con this weekend, you have Tom Hiddleston and Ewan McGregor and Chris Evans. You have these big, gigantic stars that are part of the biggest movies ever made. But then you have these other kind of smaller moments that I miss. I miss a lot of that. Um, Even like when Freddy versus Jason came out in 2003, the next year, I believe, in 2004. Yes, that's correct. In the next year, both Robert Englund, Freddy Krueger, and the guy who played Jason, Ken. I know his first name. I'm gonna butcher his last name, so I'm not even gonna try. But I know the guy. His first name's Ken. Um, the two of them were signing Freddy versus Jason stuff. At Monster Mania the next year after Freddy versus Jason came out in the movie theaters, and we went, and that had the longest line out of anything I had seen up to that point of us going to these events. But it's crazy to think that like even now, like we were like, oh wow, I'm not gonna wait 2 hours in a line to get a signature from somebody. Now you go to one of these giant conventions or even the smaller ones, and they have a somewhat significantly popular celebrity, whether that be an A-lister or somebody even on the B list that still has enough popularity to bring a big draw. You're going to be waiting all day, your entire day. It might even be like 10 hours of waiting, maybe more, depending on what type of ticket you have, what type of access, how many breaks they take, how many things they get signed, all the things. You're going to be waiting so long for that person in today's day and age. To think back that 2 hours was like, oh, wow, that's a lot. It's not that lot um, compared to where we're at. So it's really uh, those days. And I still enjoy going to Chiller Theater. I still enjoy going to Monster Mania. They still hold those events in New Jersey. Monster Mania has one also in Maryland too. I still enjoy going to them because they bring me back. They're kind of like very comforting, just from the fact that they're very similar to what they used to be 20 years ago, and that same type of feel. But even they have grown, and which is a good thing for them. I think that's a very positive thing and a great thing for those people who run those events, because it allows them to get the money they need to be able to bring in people that people want to come see, and also it allows them to keep things running. It allows those of us who enjoy going to those events to be able to continue to go, and instead of just the world being run by these gigantic mega corporation comic conventions, whether that be New York Comic Con, San Diego, of course you have Star Wars Celebration, you have all these other conventions that are popping up across the world. You have conventions happening in Dubai, you have events happening in Tokyo, you have events happening in Europe, you have London, of course, you have Paris, you have all those different places that are running all these events throughout the entire year. Whereas maybe 20 years ago, it was not very common. It's not very common. So it's great to see where the convention world has gone in the last, just I would say even in the last 10 years, where things have grown from 2013 to 2023, has grown significantly. It's become very synonymous with pop culture in general. and has become a big part of the all forms of pop culture collecting communities, to the point that even people who don't collect and the people who don't watch these shows and movies and books that we all consume, they still know about it. There's still people that I talk to, people who have no interest in any of the stuff that I'm into, and they still know, oh, New York Comic Con's coming up, or I heard about that. They're talking about it on the news. They talk about all the people dressed up in their costumes. They talk about all the people who showed up to this event. They broke a record for the amount of people they fit in the Jacob Javits Center. It's all those crazy things. So it's interesting to see, and stay tuned here on our channel, as well, on our YouTube channel, on our social media, because we will be posting some of the things that we saw at New York Comic Con this weekend, so you can keep an eye and see what it looks like. And of course, we're only going to be going one day this year, but on the other days, Thursday through Sunday, keep an eye out on their specific social media feeds, and I'm sure a lot of other influencers and people who are following the event will be posting a lot of content this weekend that you can follow along and see what's going on at the event. So just wanted to take some time, talk about conventions, talk about New York Comic Con, talk about my history with conventions and my thoughts about them, and where things have gone over the last 20, 15, 10 years and so forth, and kind of go from there. Now, to change things to a different topic outside of talking about conventions. However, I am going to bring it a little bit connection to our last topic, but we'll talk about this. And one of these things I wanted to talk about is fake autographs. Of course, you're thinking, so if you're someone who's brand new to collecting autographs, that's probably one of your number one fears. That probably is. And I got to say, that was one of my fears. And it still is. It still is one of my top fears when it comes to collecting autographs. And I got to say, where I'm at right now as a collector is that I'm a lot more comfortable with realizing when something is fake. And I'm also comfortable with having people that I can trust in getting second opinions on those particular items. So if I find something, whether that be something I find in the wild where I'm out and about, or I'm just scrolling through the internet, I'm looking on eBay, I'm looking on any other places, and I find something and I look at it and it looks kind of okay to me, I go, okay, that looks about right to me. And then you send it to those people that you trust and they go, no, stay away. Stay as far away from that. I trust that I have enough people that can back me up and support me and be able to point me in the right direction. So I feel a lot more comfortable as a collector now than I ever did prior to that. And even, let's say, even prior to COVID, prior to 2020, I was kind of on my own when it came to collecting any of my items. And then during COVID, because we were all staying at home, I became a lot more involved in the communities of the things that I collected. And I started to make friends with people in those communities. And that led me to where I am now, where I have people that I can trust and be able to kind of lean on and be able to help me out with those items. So that's number one advice I'd actually say before we get into things, is find that community and find those people that you can trust. Even if you have just one person that you know you can truly trust with those items, with kind of their feedback, that goes a long way in leading to a successful way of your collecting habits. But what I actually want to do, and this is what I was mentioning for anyone who's listening on the audio version of this podcast, is we're going to go in and give a visual kind of aid with this. So I'll talk through the items, but I highly recommend that if you're not watching the visual version, that you jump to our YouTube video that will show you the aids that I'm going to pull up here on the screen for the different items I'm going to pull up. So what I'm actually going to do is I am going to bring up a fake autograph. So something that I know for a fact is not real. I have a couple different examples of things. I'm going to bring that up on here on the screen. And then what we're going to do is we'll take a look at it. We'll analyze it a little bit. And then I'm going to pull over an example of a real one. So I'm going to pull over the example of what a real autograph looks like from the person that is trying to show off that item. Now, the first ones I'm going to start with is something that is extremely prolific within the autograph collecting community, especially of those of you who purchase autographs on eBay. So I want to start with this because I want to give you a heads up. This is something you have to keep an eye out for, because time and time again, unfortunately, I see people getting tricked by this within our autograph groups. So especially if you're part of our community autograph universe, the Facebook group, which I'll include a link to that group below that you can join. In that group, we talk about whenever situations come up like this where people are getting scammed, and there's these fake pieces out there that are significant, like they're really out there. Those topics will come up time and time again. And those are some examples I'm going to show you here, because this is something you really need to keep an eye out for and be very diligent about keeping an eye out on these things. So the first one I actually want to show here is going to be this poster of The Mandalorian Season 1. So here is a poster of The Mandalorian Season 1. And in this poster, we have a couple different people on here. So let's zoom in a little bit. And let's take a look at this. So first off, I want to start with this one because it is not even close to the autographs of the people who it should be representing. Not even close at all. So wait until you see the real ones. That's why I want to start with this. So I think this one here at the top over Mando is supposed to be Pedro Pascal. I think that's what they're going for. This one right here is supposed to be Gina Carano. Okay. I guess so. And then you have this one, on which I'm not sure. This silver one down in the bottom left, I think is supposed to be Carl Weathers. I think so. And then you have a couple other random ones down here. I think there's some ones that are down here in black in the dark area, which doesn't make any sense, but either way, whether real or fake. But they have down, I think this is supposed to be Jon Favreau, maybe down here in the black. It's really hard to see. But this one is rough. This is pretty rough and not even close. So if you know even kind of the basics of the autographs for these actors or creators, these are not even close to them. And what I want to bring up, and one of the examples of why we're using this, is down here. You'll see underneath the original series streaming November 12th, you'll see this little sticker that's down here. I'm going to zoom all the way in. So it will get a little fuzzy as we go. That sticker is what you're going to start seeing. So this is how one of the biggest scams going on, especially on eBay right now, is these stickers saying that by having that sticker, that verifies that this poster was signed at the premiere of season 1 of The Mandalorian. You'll start seeing these stickers saying Walt Disney Pictures official, or Walt Disney Pictures exclusive, or let's say it's another company, it's Warner Brothers exclusive, or Warner Brothers authenticated, whatever studio it may be. You'll see those stickers put on there. Now, anybody can print out a sticker and say that a piece is authentic. It's all about making sure that if there is a authentication sticker on that piece, it's coming from a trusted authentication company. So for example, from Swayu. Swayu has their authentications stickers that they put on any items that you pre-order, any items that you send in. And of course, you can also request to get any items that you've had before authenticated. That's a trusted source of people, of someone who is an expert in the community, and we know that they're only going to put stickers on things that are verified that they are real. So that's that fake one. Now I'm going to show you, we've talked about all that. Now I'm going to pull over a real one. So here is a real poster signed for season 1. This one's actually my personal copy. So all of these autographs on here were signed either in person or sent in through SWAU. So these are all done through either a private signing or they were signed right in front of me at different conventions across the country. So this is completely showing you how different it is. So you see right here, Pedro Pascal over Mando on the left side. And then you zoom in, Pedro Pascal right here, not even close to what the real one looks like. Not even close. Go back a bit. This down here is supposed to be Gina Carano. That is not how Gina Carano signs. You can see right here, she signs right here with a big G and then a C with the squiggles in between the G and the C. So she has that's her thing. And even you can even see her character name down there. It's not even the same type of handwriting mixed in there. Same thing with Carl Weathers down here. There's an actual Carl Weathers autograph. And then over here, those are not even the same thing. So two completely different autographs. You can tell not even the same person that signed those items. So that is just one of the prime examples that I wanted to start off with as we talk about this and go into the kind of the specifics of those. So other than that, let's actually take another situation and something that I actually want to show you here. So before I move on, we're going to click on this. And if I click over, you'll see this. So this will show you, this is the lengths that some of these scam artists will go to try to verify and trick you into buying something and trying to trick you that this piece is real. You can see here, they put a fake sticker saying that this comes directly from Disney. It's a world premiere poster. They provide you with a lanyard that's been printed out saying, this is the lanyard that I got when I attended the premiere to prove to you I got this signed at the premiere because it comes with a lanyard. And they even put a sticker and a stamp on the back of the poster stating that this is an official Walt Disney Pictures authentic memorabilia. That is not how that's going to go. If Disney was going to actually create memorabilia that's signed by the actors or creators, they're not going to go and put stickers or stamps or any of those items on there. They're going to get those items signed and they're probably going to auction them off to auction houses to send that money to charity or promote certain types of events. It's not going to be in this type of way. It's not going to be on this cheap kind of printer paper, this cheap lanyard with just a Star Wars logo from PNG kind of jumped on there. It's not going to be set up like that. So that's something to really keep an eye out for, which actually leads me to the next picture here is something going out of Star Wars, is this Spider-Man No Way Home poster. It's the same people trying to pull off this exact same scam where you have the poster signed by all these random people. They try to trick you by having different pens being used and different sections and trying to change it up. But you can kind of tell that even though they're trying to emulate some of those different actors' actual autograph, it's the same person who's writing this. It's the same type of things you can see here. This is supposed to be Tom Holland, Tobey Maguire, Andrew Garfield. Alfred Molina, I think, is supposed to be right. Yeah, that's Alfred. They're trying to put Alfred Molina under here. They're trying to put Willem Dafoe over here. J.K. Simmons, I think this is what they're trying to fake on this side. A couple other ones in here. I think this is supposed to be the guy who plays Ned, Jacob Batalon. But they're doing the same thing, where they're putting that sticker saying this is an official Marvel premiere product, 45 out of 50, with that lanyard again, with the cheap printout paper and you can't even read the words. It's that same thing. So if you see these on the market, if you're going through and on eBay or any of these other types of sites that may be selling autographs and you see one of these pop on, just pass it. Don't even look at it. Just move on. Unfortunately, eBay doesn't have a way to uh, like submit telling people that it's fake and get these items taken down. They do have protections for people who sell trading cards or sneakers or and other types of collecting hobbies, but autographs at right now, eBay doesn't really have any protection for people who buy and sell autographs. It's really just a complete wild west when it comes to that uh, for that specific topic. Another thing I want to talk about, let's jump into another example. We talked about Star Wars a little bit. I'll jump back to Star Wars, and we talked about a little bit of Marvel. But let's look at this Johnny Depp. All right, so this is a trick question. This is a trick one that I'm going to bring up to you here. This one and the next thing I'm going to show you actually came from our Autograph Universe group. One of our members, one of our moderators actually at Autograph Universe posted about this specific situation. And you look at this and go, wow, that looks great. It's a Pirates of the Caribbean shot signed by Johnny Depp. It's got that awesome quote on it saying, why is the rum always gone? You look at that autograph and you go, that's perfect. That's Johnny Depp's autograph. Most people who collect Johnny Depp or have him in their collection will look at that and go, yeah, that's right. That looks like Johnny Depp's signature. It looks like it's signed on there. We're good to go. But then there's one other thing that you need to keep an eye out for. And that is here. So now look at these two pieces and look at the autograph here. So the one here on the right is authenticated. So that one's authenticated by Beckett. The one on the left is not. But something, if you notice, is not right between these pieces. The wording and the signature are the same. They're not two separate times that Johnny Depp did this. They're the exact same one moved over, kind of copy and pasted over to the image. So the one here on the right is the real one. So this is verified that this is the real one here on the right side. The one on the left is a new type of process that these scammers are doing where they do an auto pen, where they train a computer to electronically sign a document or a photo, where it's in a machine and they put like an actual pen in a machine. They put the photo underneath the machine, and then the computer signs that photo with the programmed image that was placed into the computer. So they programmed that to match the real signature and put it onto this photo. Use a different pen, use a different ink, but it's exactly copied from one to the other. That's another thing that takes some serious experience in the community, some serious experience in the world of autograph collecting to catch something like that. And I got to say, Vinny from our Autograph Universe group, he's the one that pointed this out and called it out to our community earlier this year. And I wanted to use this as an example because it's great when people who have been in this industry for a good amount of time who do business, of course, in this industry, both on the street, getting street signatures and also doing things behind the scenes at conventions and so forth, can really have an eye to catch things like this that even myself, I wouldn't have been able to tell the difference here if I didn't know the story behind this. And then once I know the story, I can start seeing the pieces there and I see what's going on. So that's just something really, really interesting I wanted to bring up and show you that they may look similar. And the reason why is because they are the same thing. All they did was copy the one from here on the right and copy it onto this photo. So Johnny Depp only signed the one on the right. The one on the left, completely fake and just a copy. Some other items I want to bring up. Let's actually go back and talk about Star Wars a little bit more. So here's one I want to bring up. Here's a New Hope poster, supposedly signed by the cast of the original Star Wars film. I'll bring up a couple different angles here. So this one was something that once again came from one of the groups. It came from Star Wars Autograph Universe, that a member was at a store that was selling autographed pieces, once again in quotes, and they saw this and they were like, oh my God, this is my dream piece. I want to have this in the collection. I love this so much. And he was sharing it with everybody, thinking that it was real and that they were going from there. And of course, anybody who's been collecting autographs, Star Wars autographs specifically, for even a short period of time, automatically said, oh, I'm sorry, guy. I'm sorry, dude. These are not even close to being real. If you look even just a little bit, they're not even close. And you can see they're selling it, saying there's a COA attached. There's a lanyard. There's that lanyard again. This person is trying to pass off that this was signed at a Disney premiere by people who are no longer alive. Alec Guinness is on here. I think Peter Cushing is on here. People who cannot literally sign because they have been dead for many, many years. You scroll in here and you see, okay, Mark Hamill's supposed to be right here in the center. James Earl Jones is supposed to be up here at the top by Darth Vader. You have those. But let's scroll out and then let me bring in a real Mark Hamill. So here's Mark Hamill. This one was signed by him in front of me at New York Comic-Con in 2017. This is the real one. Here's the one that they're saying is real on the piece. So this is not the best Mark Hamill on the right here. Let me actually see. I can pull up a better one. Here's one on a comic book. But even here, you can see this one is a little bit older. This one's from, I think, the 90s when he signed this one. It's still not even close to being that same person right there. It's two completely different people that signed those. Scrolling out, and actually, let's take a look at James Earl Jones here. So we'll remove this one. Let's bring in James Earl Jones. So here's a real piece signed by James Earl Jones. We'll scroll in and then bring it right there. So here is a real James Earl Jones right down here at the bottom of this photo. And then the fake one that they're trying to pass off here on the left. Not even close. So this example I'm showing you is kind of a pretty obvious example. But I say the word obvious because I've been collecting for a certain amount of time. I am having conversations with people who've been collecting for 30 plus years. So for me, I might look at that just as the second I look at it. I don't even have to stare at it. The second I look at it, I go, that's automatically fake. Get rid of it. Burn it. That's it. But to other people, they might see that and go, wow, oh my God, that's so incredible to have all these people that I love on this poster. You really need to take your time. If it's too good to be true, most of the time, the majority of the time, I have to say, unfortunately, in the autograph universe, is that it's too good to be true. It really is too good to be true. Do your research and kind of really go into things not with too much caution, because if you get a little too cautious, then you get a little kind of over anxiety, I would say, with it. But at the same time, if you're going to make a big purchase, kind of do your homework there and lean on, once again, people that can really, really help you out with those situations. So I just want to actually show you guys one more thing. Let's pull up this. This I got from eBay. This Carrie Fisher and Anthony Daniels, what's supposed to be Carrie Fisher and Anthony Daniels, I grabbed this from an eBay listing earlier this year. You see Carrie Fisher here, see Anthony Daniels. Okay, it's got a general flow on both of them that is, I hate to say use the word similar, but kind of similar to what their actual autograph looks like. But once again, to the trained eye and someone who's just been kind of looking at multiple examples of their autographs, you can tell, okay, that's not right. There's something wrong with that. That's not right. You also have here, if we scroll in, you can see kind of the specifics there. It doesn't, it's kind of really squished. It doesn't look right. It kind of has the flow, but it's really not there. And then you also have, if we scroll all the way in, you have this authentication sticker at the bottom. This is just one of those ones you can print out on your home printer. That you'll see this specific one a lot on eBay. This VS or autograph authentication with a website has just a kind of a fake number on there. You'll see a lot of those just trying to pass it off as real. Those are not real. That's not part of your authentication companies that you know within the industry. I would always stick, of course, to the ones that you know. But let's move that and let's pull up a real Carrie Fisher. So here is a real one. So you have the real Carrie Fisher here. You can see where they kind of were trying to figure out how to fake this and do this loop up here at the top on the F, and then kind of do that little kind of curl with the C. But the difference is between what this is the real one here on the left, on the right, I should say. And then on the left is the fake one. So here we go. We got the fake one here on the left and the real one here on the right. Very, very different. You can see the thought process once again of what they're trying to think and how they're faking it to pass this off to people. But once you see how she signed and how those letters are spread out even later in her life, and she signed a ton, but even later on, even up to when before she died, this was still very clear where you can tell those specific turns of her autograph, and what is authentic for that. So that's a really good example, which actually brings me to, I'm just gonna, as a bonus one, we'll take a look at Anthony Daniels one here too. So here's Anthony Daniels. And then here is a real Anthony Daniels. So this is the real one. Let's locate it right here. So we'll pull that over. I'll scroll in a bit. You can see once again the thought process of where they're trying to do those flips and those turns with the A and the D to try to fool you. But that handwriting is completely different. That is not Anthony Daniels here on the left side in the black. That is not him at all. This is a real one here from Official Pics on the right side. So it's very, very telling, but they try to get real tricky. These people, they really want to figure out all the best ways to scam you and get you out of your money. And the biggest thing you'll notice too is that like a piece like this, which with Carrie Fisher and Anthony Daniels on it, will probably go over $1,000, probably plus that at an auction or even just on a regular sale if it's real. Whereas they might be selling this on eBay for $50. And you're like, wow, $50 for Carrie Fisher and Anthony Daniels. Yeah, because it's fake. Just to be completely honest about how they try to scam you in those things. So once again, be diligent, do your research, trust those authentication companies that you can trust, like Swayu. Swayu's my go-to with authentication. One of my good friends, Pete Chuka, or as he's known as Pete Bendu, which we actually have an interview with him that we did last year here on our channel. He is the lead authenticator at that. He's been collecting Star Wars autographs for over 30 years plus, and not just Star Wars, but Marvel and anything else pop culture, kind of major entertainment collectibles for the last 30 years plus. And he's my go-to person for all these things. And like I said, the lead authenticator over there, and I trust him with anything. Especially Star Wars. He's the number one mind in the world when it comes to Star Wars autographs. So it's great to kind of take a look at these, see those differences. I wanted to take some time and really kind of show you all what that looks like and give you a heads up and give you a little insight into the world of keeping an eye on fake autographs. Of course, we could be here all day. If you're interested in more of these types of conversations, let me know in the comments below. I enjoy talking about that, and maybe I could possibly even get some guests to join us in the future to talk about this topic. I would love to do that and maybe go through the eBay or go through some more examples and talk about those and why they are the way they are. So that kind of wraps up our topics for today's podcast. I want to thank everybody again for taking some time to indulge us here, of course, and listen into all the things I have to say. It's just kind of me right now, just rambling on and talking about all the things I love, all my passions, and sharing it with you, and hopefully being able to share a piece of the community with you to give you inspiration and, of course, um, make you feel more comfortable in bringing out your own passions, and hopefully you're able to create something from that, whether you are a creative person that wants to do something similar to this, a podcast, a video, an Instagram reel, or a TikTok, all those things, whether it be that, or maybe you're somebody that's a little more reserved and you just want to be like, okay, I just want a place to talk about all the things I love. Hopefully this can be a place for that. If you aren't already, please subscribe to our YouTube channel. We have a lot of other videos here on the channel that include, of course, talking about autographs, comic books, 1/6 scale figures. Like I mentioned, we are going to be at New York Comic Con. If you're going to New York Comic Con, if you're going to be there on Saturday and you run into us, I will be wearing my Brandao collection hat that I'm wearing right now. Feel free to say hello. If not, keep an eye out on our channel. We will be doing a recap of that, whether we do it in this format or we might do a short form video. Either way, we'll do some content here on our channel and on our social media pages when it comes to New York Comic Con. So thank you, everyone, once again for listening, for watching. And as always, keep on collecting.